Hello, I've wanted to do a video on division for quite a while now because it's a bit of a funny one. How we teach it at secondary I feel like is easier than how they have to go through it at primary, because we don't do chunking, they just do short division. However, I've come around to the idea, I think it is useful. A lot of people have asked me for it. I've taught it one-to-one as well, and I've given it a lot of thought. So I thought I'd just show you how I'm going to do division in the division block in case it's helpful, and in case you want to jump on either one. The lives is at 8:15 on a Wednesday morning, or the recorded if that doesn't work for you. We're going to start with a friendly calculation. We're going to start with 12 divided by 3. I think most of the children will probably know that that's 4, but it's handy to start with a number that's quite friendly, a calculation that's quite friendly, because then you can think about how it works and it's a manageable number to think about the objects. So we're going to talk about back in the day when they maybe did grouping and sharing. We're going to talk quickly about how you can group to get the answer as 4 if you didn't know your times table in reverse, and you can group it by putting them into groups of 3. And you can see that you've got 4 groups. Or how you can share it to get the answer as 4 by thinking that here's 4 bowls. I'm doing it with Smarties today with my youngest. Won't be doing it with Smarties in the session. There's something on the screen, but here we go. So you can share it. And you can get 4 in each of the piles. So 2 ways, grouping and sharing. And then we'll talk about how, as you get older and your times tables become ingrained, you just do it by reversing the facts, and you're sort of almost not picturing what you're doing. It's just becoming something that you just do. It's like just a fact that, like any fact really. So we're going to talk about that in the first session. We're also going to dip into, because it's really useful, related calculations. So if you know 12 divided by 3 equals 4, you also know 120 divided by 3 equals 40. So we're going to talk about that as well. When we go into session 2, we're going to do some related calculations warm up, or that could be at the third session, I'm not sure, one or the other, because it's really important. So we'll talk about how, again, questions like what I've just said. So if you know 6 times 4 equals 24, you also know that 60 times 4 equals 240. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to say, well, what though if the number isn't in the times table? What if it's not there? Like 51 isn't an answer to any of the times tables. What if you had to do 51 divided by 3? And we'll chat about how you've got to get as close as you can to it. If we were doing 51 divided by 3, some people might just know it. At this point, some people might jump in and say about the bus stop method, which is fine. I'm going to bring that up a lot because, like I said at the start, it can be used instead of chunking. I didn't do chunking or long division until I was like 20 something for teaching dividing algebra. So you can get by without it. So we're going to talk about, if it's not in the times table, you can break it down into numbers that are, and then you can say, well, there's 10 threes there, 7 there. So altogether, 51 divided by 3 is 17. After we've done that, so this is at the end of the second session, I am going to say to them about chunking, and that it's a nice method to understand. It's got applications perhaps when they're older. It brings in lots of maths, but not to worry if they prefer the short one, which I'll also show them. So my plan is to teach them alongside each other, because I know from talking to some parents, the chunking method has sort of freaked some children out, because it looks pretty harsh really. There's numbers everywhere, especially when the numbers get bigger. So we'll start with 51 divided by 3, because we'll already know the answer and we'll just be looking at how it's set out. You think to yourself, right, 51 isn't in the 3 times table. Can I get close? Tens numbers are always a good one to try. So I'll encourage them to think, okay, well, 30 is pretty close, and that's 10 threes. So I've got part of my answer, 10. I just know there's some more. And then what you do is you take away to find out how many more you need to make the 51, because we're trying to see how many threes are in 51, and we've just done 30 so far. So we've got 21 more to go. If they know the 3 times table for 21, we can put it straight away. So we could put 21 if they know that. So you're doing a times to get that number, and then you're taking away to see how much more you've still got to make and 21 is 7 threes. And then you can take them away again. If there was a remainder, it'd pop out there. So it looks really involved, but it's essentially the same as doing 51, 30 and 21 and getting your answers that way. It's just set out differently. At this point, I will also reassure them if they like the short method, that's absolutely fine. And as well as you can't see that, I'll put the short method. Where can you see it on the board over here? There we go. So where you go, how many threes in 5? This is the method that got me all the way to my early 20s. How many threes in 5? 2, sorry. How many threes in 5? I was on to my remainder, that's my excuse. 1, remainder 2. How many threes in 21? 7. So we'll talk about that and say, don't worry, and we'll have a bit of time on that too at some point in the sessions. This chunking method, because this one comes up in year 4, so they might already have seen that. Again, don't worry if they haven't, we'll cover it and we'll have a look at it. The next thing to do, so by the time we've got to the end of the second session, we'll have covered most of the theory. The thing to do in the final 2 sessions will be to get some practice. And that's where I'll have a range of questions. So some children will still want to practice 2-digit, I would have thought, in session 3. So I think what I'm planning to do, I'll see how everyone's getting on, is to have a couple of questions on the screen at the same time, and they can pick which one they want to try. And they might try the 2-digit one first and then warm up to something like this, 268 divided by 4. So quite a lot trickier. So what we're trying to do is get as close as we can to 268. So you think to yourself, well, do I know a 4 times table that will get me quite close? I'll encourage them to use the first 2 digits just because it makes the question a little bit shorter. But I'll tell them it doesn't matter if they get a slightly smaller one. It just means the taking away will last a little bit longer. So I'm hoping that they might say, well, I know, because I'll use it as a warm-up question as well, the 4s and the 6s. I know 4 6s is 24. So I know if I times it by 60, I'll get 240. Therefore, I have got here, I'll put it on this side so you can see it, I normally write it on the other, 64s. And then it's a case of doing a takeaway and seeing how much you've got left, because you're trying to find out how many 4s are in 268. So we've got 240, we know that's 60. So how many more do we need? So we do a takeaway, we get 28. At this point, I'm hoping they'll know that times table. Certainly some will. I'll try and keep the pace with 30. I try and not let myself get carried away when somebody knows the answer, because I'm conscious that could just be, a few children. So we'll try and keep the pace. So 28, whilst giving people a chance to have a think, is 7 times 4. But you will have the recordings as well. So just reassure them this is a tricky topic. And might take a bit more time. So we know 28 is 7 times 4, so we'll put 7 times 4 down. I'll write that on the next line, because this is where we're sort of thinking, what do we need? And this is where we actually get it. And then take it away, it's 0. So it divides exactly, and your answer is 67. And we'll be popping the answer up on the top. And also thinking 268 divided by 4 equals, doing it again right where you can't see, 268 divided by 4 equals 67. Okay, and after that it will be more practice. I'll go on to 269 just because it drops a remainder out, and they might be able to predict what the remainder is going to be if they think about it, which is just one more, so we're going to have 1 left over, so we'll be able to predict the remainder as 1. And like I say, I'll make sure that I emphasise that it is absolutely fine to be looking at numbers like this. It's absolutely fine if I'm going to rob this out now just quickly to show the short way. If you prefer the short way, divided by 4. So some of them might be already happy with this. So how many 4s in 2? Doesn't divide. How many 4s in 26? 4. How many 4, but remainder 2, sorry. How many 4s in 28? Oh, sorry. Why have I put a 4 there? How many 4s in 26? 6. Remainder 2. How many 4s in 28? 7. Sorry, I would take it again, but I've had so many takes. Sorry about that mistake. And get the answer 67 that way. And that is absolutely fine. That got me through my A-levels and into maths teaching. So it's absolutely fine to be doing it like that. And that is division. So I hope to see you there. And if I don't see you there, I hope that's been helpful. And like I say, if it's too early, but you think you might quite like the lessons, from next term, I'm doing recorded recaps where I'm going to start it on the screen of the lesson. I often start it on the screen with everyone's faces. I'm going to start it on the screen on the lesson. So straight from the beginning, you'll have all of the screen recording of the lesson with me talking through it. At the moment, I can't put my photo on. I'm going to put a photo on the first screen and my video, because that would include anyone's video of anyone that talks. But I'm hoping they'll do a host and screen share soon, so I'll be able to put my video on. But at the moment, it's whoever's talking. Right, okay, I shall say bye now. I hope that's been helpful, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.